It reminds me of this client I was recently talking with, and she's just been in this. I just started with her. She's been in this constant battle of like she wants to lose weight. She has this urgency about it, which I very much appreciate. But it's this constant battle of like I'm going really restrictive. I want to lose weight. Like I need to get this off. And she's in this vicious cycle though because she keeps doing this restrictive thing where she like for a week or two she goes as hard as she possibly can, and eventually she snaps like a rubber band and burns out and winds up binging and eats way more than she was the prior 2 weeks. And it's this constant like battle of like I want it now versus I'm willing to kind of play the long-term game here and eat in a way that I can actually sustain for the rest of my life and exercise in a way that I can actually sustain. So it's this battle, it's this constant battle. And I've been trying to encourage her, like, let's approach this in a much longer term way versus like, I need to lose weight now. Because when you approach it that way, you do things that are not sustainable, right? And you're going too intense, you're eating too little, you're exercising too much, and you burn out. Whereas if she would just say, you know what, I'm going to approach this from a long-term perspective, eat a little more, exercise a little less intensely in a way I enjoy, in a way that I can easily maintain this, then she would never have that burnout.
Hey there, Adam. Great to see you as always. How's it going today?
Doing well. Life is good.
Yeah?
How about you?
No, it's good. It's good. So you're feeling good about today, this moment right here. Feeling good? No resistance?
No resistance at the moment.
All right. Well, good. I have a
How about you?
catchphrase for you. No, I'm okay. I'm okay with this moment here. So why I'm asking you that question. So I came up with this catchphrase recently with one of my clients, and it's sticky, right? Like, which was the point. I really wanted to find something we could say that would just totally trigger like all these mindsets we've been working on. And that catchphrase is reality neutrality.
Ooh,
Yeah. What do you think?
I like that. I
Right?
like that a lot.
It's catchy. It's catchy. Little jig, little little rhyming. Never hurt anybody.
Rhyme is key.
It is. Songs. These are why songs get in our heads. This client, I tell you, first of all, like Herculean in terms of resilience, but also in terms of resistance, right? Like we've had to work really, really hard on identifying resistance and calling it out and working through it. And this was kind of our next step was like, you know what? Reality neutrality. We don't have to like it. We don't have to like where we're at. We don't have to like the state we're in, but we got to work to accept it because it is. It is. And we can't fight what is right now, right in this moment. What are your thoughts about that?
I try to be a lover or at least an acceptor of reality because if you can't love what is, if you can't change what is, you might as well accept it or love it. Otherwise, you're going to suffer. And I think so much of our suffering, so much of our unhappiness is when we're fighting reality. And that reality could be the traffic, it could be the line we're waiting in, it could be our kids not acting the way we think they should, it could be our day and how we're not going to be able to do what we want to do. There's all sorts of things that come up where we fight reality.
Yes, exactly. Well, I mean, Eckhart Tolle, what does he say? And I think it was in A New Earth. Pain equals resistance to what is. So, I mean, I don't know about you, Adam, but I don't go around in my day going, let me feel some pain, right? Like,
no.
No.
One quick thought, by the way, kind of, tangential here is, you said your client has been very resilient, but there's also been resistance. I'm a lover of reality. At least I try to accept it as much as I possibly can. But I also love resistance because to me, that's an opportunity to peel back the curtain and figure out what's going on. Because I think in any worthwhile journey, there's going to be resistance. And it's not about like that. Resistance is inevitable. The key is working through and understanding what you're resisting, what what are your concerns? What are you fearing? What are you hoping? All that stuff, that juicy stuff is the good stuff. And I think sometimes people feel resistance and they just recoil and they hide.
Mm-hmm.
But that
Mm-hmm.
resistance is inevitable. That's not going away. So let's peel back the curtain on the resistance and figure out what exactly is driving it.
Yeah, well, and I think we can look at it as an indicator that we might be resisting reality, right?
Yeah.
Like okay, let's start to break this down a little bit. So let's say client A sets some goals, okay? And then maybe we work with our client and we determine the path to those goals. But pretty quickly, resistance starts showing up. And then the next thing you know, we've sort of crashed and burned on that path. We're never going to get to the goal. So one thing that I would think is like, okay, let's acknowledge the resistance. Maybe that looks like just totally not complying with anything we discussed. And let's talk about what's really going on. And chances are what's underlying it is a resistance to reality, a resistance to what is, right? Like that goal didn't take into consideration the reality of the current state of the client. What do you think about that scenario?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to that. I think it's important to accept the realities of your life. And I think for most of us, we're not eating nutritiously and we're not exercising for a living, right? We have other things and other responsibilities, and we have to learn how to fit those in to our life. And I think there is a lot of resistance to, well, I want to do this, or I feel like I should do this, or if I don't do that, then it's not work. Like there's a lot of that internal conflict.
Yes.
So yeah, no doubt.
So you mentioned something. I actually say this to my clients all the time. I'm like, are you being paid $1 million to do this? Then back off, right? Like, and you said like you're not being paid, right? Like you're not being paid as an athlete or something like that. But I think this is a great example, and this may help those listening and tuning in to kind of grasp this a little more. So imagine somebody comes into the program and they're like, okay, I want to be ripped, right? Like make me look like Thor in all the Marvel movies. Let's be clear, that guy gets paid millions and millions of dollars, and his job is to look like that. Plus, he can hire whomever he needs to hire to make sure he gets there. Is that your reality? Okay, then let's dial it back. Does that mean you could never look that way? Absolutely not. I'm not saying that at all. But let's take into consideration the circumstances you're in, and if we're setting ourselves up to look like Thor in the next 6 months, but reality is you're not being paid $1 million, nor do you have the resources or funds to go out and hire 15 personal trainers and chefs to make sure you're going to achieve that in 6 months, then we've got to adjust. We've got to adjust those expectations and be okay with reality, right? Like that's the other thing. If you're resistant to the reality that you're in, you're stuck right where you are. You're not going to get anywhere. You're going no further.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really important to be realistic, and any goal is achievable, but you have to be realistic given your reality and your time frame, right? And I think that's the biggest difference is some people have more time to devote to this, but it doesn't mean the time you have is not worthwhile, because I truly believe that, when you take care of yourself and you take care of the foundational things like your nutrition, like your exercise, it helps you do everything else better.
It does.
But we have to be realistic given our current responsibilities, current priorities, current time frame, time constraints, etc.
Yes. Actually, this brings to mind another funny story, conversation I just had with a very dear friend of mine not too long ago. So we were video messaging through Marco Polo. I don't know if you know this app. It's a pretty awesome app. And this is how I've stayed in touch with this girl for I don't know how long now. But anyway, she messaged me and she was like, by the way, like, what do you do for your arms? Like your arms are looking really great. And I hear her husband, who's also my friend, in the background going, lift heavy. He just keeps saying it, lift heavy. And I messaged her back and I was like, tell Spencer, he's not wrong. But I don't recommend you go out and do that right now because that's not where you're at. Like, please don't go pick up these heavy weights. And I then had the conversation like, listen, I've been at this a really long time and it was not a straight line. I'm talking decades, right? Like It wasn't overnight. It wasn't even 6 months. It was not a year. It wasn't 5 years. It's been since I have intentionally picked up weights, 15 years.
Right.
15 years, right? And people, but oh my God. Right. But it wasn't every day. Some weeks it wasn't even every week, y'all. So like you gotta set your expectations to meet your reality, right? Where are you at? And just start. And like you said, Adam, every minute, every 2 minutes, every 5 minutes, every 20 minutes you can devote to it, it counts. It adds up over time. And so here's another message. Embrace this as a lifelong thing. If you are seeing it as episodic, if you are seeing it as a start and a finish, you're setting yourself up to be disappointed, if I'm being perfectly honest, because it will come to an end and then you'll loathe it ending and miss what was, and you'll be resistant to reality. So just, hey, I'm here today. I don't have to like it, but I got to get neutral with it if I want it to change and be anything different than it is. Oh, and I get to do this for life. How awesome is that? I don't know, just my 2 cents. You know, you kept mentioning like, I'm a lover of reality. I don't even think you have to love reality. If you
Right.
do, awesome. But like, don't force that down your throat either.
True, no doubt. But yes, if I can't love what is, I at least try to accept what is, because
Yeah.
otherwise I'm going to suffer. And that is a
Yeah.
mantra of mine, right? If I can't love what is, or if I can't change what is, I might as well love it or accept it. Otherwise, I'm going to suffer. You know, it reminds me of this client I was recently talking with, and you know, she's just been in this. You know, I just started with her. She's been in this constant battle of like, she wants to lose weight. She has this urgency about it, which I very much appreciate. But it's this constant battle of like, I'm going really restrictive. I want to lose weight. Like, I need to get this off. And she's in this vicious cycle though, because she keeps doing this restrictive thing where she, like, for a week or two, she goes as hard as she possibly can. And eventually she snaps like a rubber band and burns out and winds up binging and eats way more than she was the prior 2 weeks. And it's this constant like battle of like, I want it now versus I'm willing to kind of play the long-term game here and eat in a way that I can actually sustain for the rest of my life and exercise in a way that I can actually sustain. So it's this battle, it's this constant battle. And I've been trying to encourage her, like, let's approach this in a much longer term way versus like, I need to lose weight now. Because when you approach it that way, you do things that are not sustainable, right? Mm-hmm. And you're going too intense, you're eating too little, you're exercising too much, and you burn out. Whereas if she would just say, you know what, I'm going to approach this from a long-term perspective, eat a little more, exercise a little less intensely in a way I enjoy, in a way that I can easily maintain this, then she would never have that burnout. And that's what we're trying to work on, is overcoming that sense of urgency, which is always great, but there has to be also this patience and willingness to do this for the long term, because she was stuck in this cycle.
Right. So if we're trying to delineate the reality she's resisting, can you help us break that down?
I think the reality she's resisting is it's going to take longer than she wants.
Okay.
And this is a long-term thing here. How long do you intend to keep brushing your teeth? Hopefully until the day you die. Right?
Yeah.
And
we're just not conditioned to see weight loss that way.
Right.
We're just not.
It's really, really tricky because we want it now. We come to this with a feeling of disgust sometimes, right? And that's very motivating. That certainly compels action.
Right.
But
yeah,
you have to almost channel that energy, that desire, that disgust, and say, this has to last a long time, versus just like going all in and then burning out. And that's what's continually happening for her. And she can't, I think we're getting there, but she wants it now versus, to me, I want her to have it soon and forever. Instead of just now, like, yeah, I can help her lose weight in a week or two, but like, who cares? I want her to have the weight loss soon, but most importantly, forever.
Any chance there's a conflict of actual goals going on there? Because I'm listening to you talk about this, right? The reality is what she wants takes longer. What she wants is quick weight loss. It doesn't take longer, right? You've just said, like, I can do this in a week or two. Fine. What you want for her is long lasting health, side effect weight loss. That's a different story. So I think sometimes too, like, we get confused about our goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is actually the reality is there's two parts of her, right? The one that, like, and this is, I think, what you're saying, right? Like, we have to balance that urgency, the one who wanted it gone yesterday. But there's got to be a part of her that understands what she really wants. The reality of what she really wants is never to have to do this again. And that's a friggin' long game. That's a
Right.
lifelong thing.
Absolutely.
Right?
And that's why she signed up. Like, she knows that, but at times she can't get out of her own way, right? She doesn't
Yeah.
want to keep going down that same path and repeating the same pattern.
Right.
So that's what we're working on, though, is like, let's do this in a way that you could actually sustain for the rest of your life. That's what I want for her. That's what she wants. But again, there's also that part of her. We all have that short-term irrational mind that, wants it now. And right now, her clothes aren't fitting the way she wants them to. And that's where that urgency and like, all right, fine, I'm just going to not eat as much as I should eat today comes in.
Mm-hmm. It's so interesting. Man,
It's also
tough.
like, yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's like, when someone comes to us, they want to lose weight, but they also have a really poor relationship with food, and they're binging and they're emotional eating and they're stress eating. And the tricky part is, I understand they want to lose weight. No doubt. We want to help you lose weight, help you love the way you look and feel, all of that. But sometimes when the very things that you might do to lose weight are the very things that might perpetuate a poor relationship with food, like binging, like emotional eating, etc. And
Right.
when the client says, well, I want to lose weight, it's like, yes, but we really need to focus on your relationship with food first, because then a wonderful side effect of that will be weight loss.
Yes.
And that's the very same thing where there's, the goals are not aligning, or there's a conflict of goals, right? They want to lose weight, but they also want to change their relationship with food. Sometimes they don't necessarily work in hand.
Yeah. And the reality of those two things is, just like you said, sure, we can lose weight quick in a week. No problem. Right. But the other piece of it, the reality of wanting to stay healthy, have a healthy relationship with food and with your body, and lose weight and maintain it for life, the reality of that path is very different than what we've been taught to believe.
Right.
And yeah, you just have to embrace that. You have to, I mean, it's so cheesy. Fall in love with the journey. I'm sorry. You see, even me, I can say that's cheesy, but that's the truth of what it is. You have to be okay with this just being for life. And there's freedom. There's freedom. Once you embrace it, once you're like, yeah, I'll be neutral with that reality, you're free. You're really free. All of a sudden, the cage is gone.
Right. Absolutely. There's no doubt. Yeah, I mean, I think it's so true. And it's so important to focus on the reality, right? What is the reality? And once you do that, I think everything else comes from there, and it becomes a lot more clear. And it's just a lot easier to get what you want also, when you're just, this is where I am. This is the reality.
Yep. All right. Well, let's bring this one into home. We're looking at reality neutrality, right? So take a look at your goals, and then take a look at reality, right? Like, is your timeline appropriate for those goals? Is that goal even appropriate to what you've got going on today? Today, not yesterday, not who you were 10 years ago, not who you think you're going to be in 50 years. My gosh, 50 years, 15 years. Although I told you, Adam, I'm probably going to live the next 800. So, it's fine.
Love that.
But yeah, take a look, and just, if you notice like you're resisting something, or you keep falling off track, back up a second. Are you resisting what is, right? Find reality neutrality and work from there. And all of a sudden you may find you're really feeling a lot freer to try different things, to explore different spaces, to achieve different things. Anything else you want to add, Adam?
Yeah, I think, and I hope people don't get, take the takeaway from this video is like we're raining on your goals, or we're dissuading you from your goals. It's really not about that. Anything is accomplishable, is that a word? Anything is achievable.
Achievable.
Accomplishable. Wow, that's a good one. My mom, a former English teacher, is really going to love that one. Anything is achievable, but you have to be realistic with where you are. And I think it's important to, like you said, what the big takeaway I want, the takeaway I want people to get from this is you need to just look at each day, and instead of, having this reaction to it, almost look at it as like a scientist, like, that's interesting. How am I going to approach this day, given what I know, given the reality? Mm-hmm. And the day might be, you know what? I only have 20 minutes for my workout today. All right, that's interesting. What am I going to do with it? Am I going to fight it? Am I going to be like, oh, this is annoying, this sucks, I can't do what I want to do? Or I'm going to say, all right, I have 20 minutes. What can I do? Or it might be a meal, out to eat comes up spontaneously. You could say, oh, that's so annoying. I can't build some momentum here. Now this meal is going to sabotage me. Or you can just say, all right. And I think for me, what I want for you to do is take away is, instead of reacting so much to reality, try to respond to it. Try to have that scientist approach of like, all right, that's interesting. What can we do given the reality?
I like it. Keep your mad scientist hat on, Adam.
That's it. That's all we can ask for.
Yes. All right, guys, that's it for this week. Find neutrality with your reality. Email us. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, take good care.